Hello everyone, Daniel Master 87 here, and today I'm going to be continuing reviewing GoodBoyKaru's changes to Dead by Daylight, because I got so off track trying to record this. It's been like a month since the last part went up, but this is going to be part 2 today, hopefully the final one. We left off talking about what changes he would make to the maps, and now we're going to be talking about what changes that he's going to do for all of the killers. Either he's going to go like overall, which seems like a short section, and then he's got the individual changes breaking them down. So, after hooking a survivor, all survivors outside of a 40-meter range have their aura revealed for 4 seconds. So basically giving killers barbecue and chili at base, which is a good idea, because guess what? It actually gives them an incentive to leave the freaking hook. Not like tournament DBD and stuff like that, where you literally just down one person, face camp them to death, and then that's the most efficient you can be. It's freaking boring. We found that providing a reason for killers to leave the hook did, in fact, assist in the reduction of camping. Therefore, we're adding back an incentive for killers to leave the hook. I like how he words some of this stuff as if he's the devs, and being a bit sarcastic. And also, bloodlust has been removed. That's still something I'm not really going to budge on. I think bloodlust might always be needed, as long as there's strong loops in the game. The killers are going to need it, because nobody is seemingly for making every loop mind gameable. They should be, because at that point it's like the most skilled person wins. Like, the survivor's going to go down either way, but at least like if the killer's good, then he'll be able to mind game the tile and down them in an appropriate amount of time, instead of getting loops forever and ever and ever and still hasn't broken the pallet. Bloodlust 3, oh what, I'm still not able to catch the survivor. What a sad case. But moving on, having seriously hit map sizes, pallet strength, and hopefully some of the most connected tile spawns in the game, make them substantially more fair to the killer. So I guess I've got to readjust my thinking. All these changes he's proposing all at once, meaning that all the map changes from last video, the generator changes, all that stuff, he's factoring it all into one thing. So under these circumstances, yeah, maybe bloodlust removal is good, but in this freaking game, like looping, like on the Crotus, no, not Crotus Friend, or is it Crotus Friend? The Clowns map, where it's just like a 4-wall leading into shack, or a jungle gym leading into shack. It's just too overpowered. If we have freaking Z-walls and junk connecting on here, then it'll be good, because that's kind of what he's suggesting. He says the furthest 3 generators from your location are blocked at the beginning of the map for 40 seconds, or until a survivor is placed into the dying state, whichever comes first. So base corrupt intervention, but the sucky version of corrupt intervention, where a survivor goes down and oh, all of a sudden I guess I don't need that slowdown. But just having it at all is going to be a huge help. Now he's going to go to the individual killers, starting with the trapper. He says, traps now spawn closer to the center of the map, thank you, and is already well hidden places specifically chosen by our fog whisperers. Well, fog whisperers are going to make dumb decisions like putting them right under pallets or in some bit of brush or whatever that nobody's ever going to run through. So scratch that last part out and it'll be good. The trapper can carry up to 6 spare traps by default, because We do not need Trapper to still be using a freaking bag add-on just to carry a decent amount of traps. That should not be a thing. An injured survivor who steps into a bear trap will be affected by the deep wound status, which they do have an add-on, I think, in the game right now, where if a survivor steps in a trap, you get the deep wound when you get out, but having that as just a base thing, I think, would be nice. Because here he's not even saying that, he's just saying that someone who's already injured stepping into it will get deep wound. And so he's going to be looking at the add-on Serrated Jaws, that instead of doing that, it now applies to anyone caught in a bear trap. Let me check the add-on real quick. I'll have to switch to Trapper. Yeah, so Serrated Jaws right now, all it does is inflict hemorrhage on trap survivors until they're healed, which is the extra bleeding, I think. Yeah, that's the change they made a little while back. Increased bleeding with the blood trails, and then it regresses the healing progress when they're not healing. So that's a nice effect as is, but he's saying because of the changes he's making, Serrated Jaws will now apply to anyone caught in a bear trap. I'm pretty sure that's what it already does, but okay. Trapper Bag allows you to carry up to 7 bear traps. Pretty sure that's just one more than it already does, but whatever. Rusted Jaws now applies to anyone caught in a bear trap. So what is he saying when he said the thing about Serrated Jaws and now Rusted Jaws? Is it saying like anyone caught in bear traps is what he's saying? Yeah, I really don't get it. Maybe he's just changing up the wording to make it technical, but getting caught in a bear trap and these status effects affecting trap survivors is about the same thing, though. Moving on to Wraith. He is removing light burn because it is a stupid mechanic where the devs have said in the past we don't want items specifically being stronger against certain killers, which is why they took away the ability to sabotage traps with toolboxes from Trapper's traps, because you used to be able to do that and then the trap would just freaking stay disarmed for like, I don't know, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, something stupid like that. But they still have flashlights being good against Wraith, Nurse, Hag. Where's the double standards there? So they've removed light burn, so a survivor can't just point a flashlight at you and be safe because you're gonna have to dodge before you finish uncloaking against them. Increase the post-uncloak speed boost duration to 1.25 seconds. I don't know what that is compared to now, but the fact that he's saying it's an increase is a good thing. Because it needs to be longer. Because that would also make that's basically kind of returning his old lunge back to him, which is what made him strong. Because right now he's just an M1 killer who goes faster in cloak. And that's about it. And stunning the Wraith with a pallet no longer has an increased stun time. That's another stupid thing. Where, oh, because I'm cloaked, when you stunned me, I have a longer stun time. Doesn't make any sense. Increase the action speed while cloaked by 20%. So I'm assuming that's just across the board, like faster pallet breaking, breakable wall breaking, gin kicking, vaulting. I mean, that solves a lot of this killer's problems. And it would even apply to locker opening, I'm assuming, which is an effect that I want back for Wraith, because Shadow Dance, these add-ons, used to do that, where all it says now is windows breaking, damaging generators by 60% while cloaked. It used to open up lockers faster too, and they pretty much shadow nerfed that, I'm pretty sure. It's funny, he even mentions the Shadow Dance add-ons right here. Shadow Dance White and Shadow Dance Blood also affect the time to search lockers. Okay, cool. So he's bringing that aspect of the add-ons back with these proposed changes, because it never should have been removed in the first point, because that doesn't make any sense. You have an add-on that increases the locker opening speed, and you nerf it for some reason. Is that to cater to like casual survivors? Because honestly, I didn't ever see anybody complaining about that effect of his add-on. Maybe the devs had an idea that like, we don't like that he's checking multiple lockers too fast, because that could end the game quicker for the survivors who are just hiding in a locker the whole time because they don't want to push their objective because they're afraid to die. But moving on, Hillbilly looks like he's got a bunch of changes. Hopefully this guy isn't too noisy while I'm trying to talk over these, because you know he roars and he doesn't have his chainsaw or anything, but he hits the ground with the hammer and all that. Fixed bugs relating to his animations. His animations are super screwed up from his perspective and from the survivors. Like they're not lined up correctly, or they changed something since he got his rework, and it's just never been the same ever since. Once the chainsaw has... okay. So he's not removing overheat. I guess he's one of those people who somehow justifies its inclusion with the skiller. Once the chainsaw has overheated, increase the charge time of the chainsaw by 30%. This replaces the previous effect, which would prevent the chainsaw from being used. So, is that saying that overheating would then be a good thing that you would want to do? Because that's very interesting if that's the case. It would increase the charge time by 30%, which would replace the previous effect, which would prevent it from being used. So, in his version, he actually turns overheat into something cool, which is making it charge up faster, but I still have mixed feelings on that, because wouldn't people be doing that dumb thing you can do now and overheat on purpose by just tapping L2 or whatever? So you have them going around and then they have 30% faster charge speed. The chainsaw now cools while a chainsaw sprint is active instead of overheating it. That's interesting. Again, could very well just be spitballing ideas, and this is like way better stuff than the devs have ever come up with in like the past few months. Punctured muffler. Which one is that? I'm not super familiar with this killer's add-ons. I might not have the add-on he's talking about. Yeah, I think there's supposed to be 5 brown ones, and I only have 4 of them right now, but I'm pretty sure that's the one that like makes the chainsaw quieter while you're revving it or whatever, which is bad. It now decreases the charge speed penalty to 20%. Did I read his above part right? Okay, so take it back a few steps. He's keeping overheat and he's still making it bad. he's increasing the charge time of the chainsaw by 30% when you overheat. So it's not going to be as bad as before, where the chainsaw just gets disabled, but it's still going to punish you for using your ability. So that I very much disagree with. So punctured muffler is now going to decrease that penalty to 20% instead of 30%. Big buckle, probably that yellow thing I saw. Instead of decreasing the tear radius by 8 meters when the chainsaw is overheated, it's going to decrease the chainsaw's charge time by 5%. He's keeping the numbers low on that because people didn't want crack belly or whatever they called it back in the day, where it would be like an insta saw, like down. Mother's helpers, I remember these. Now decreases the chainsaw charge time by 8%. So two of those together, you got 13%, which is probably going to be the highest that you're going to be able to reduce the charge time. Leafy Mash. These are all weird add-on names. Now increases movement speed by 0.2 meters a second when the chainsaw is overheated. So it would make you, if I can just press this, it would make you 4.8 meters a second, which 4.4 is 110, and 4.6 is 115, and 4.8 would be 120%. So, backtracking a bit again, he is still making overheat a punishing thing, but like the devs have attempted to do, he's also making it to where if you do overheat, there's bonuses with like certain add-ons that you can do, and that's one of them. Because a freaking 120% hillbilly is pretty intense. The black grease, this green thing right here, now increases movement speed while charging the chainsaw by 0.3 meters a second. So that would be 120% plus 0.1 meters a second, so that would be like what, 2.5, so it would be 122.5 meters a second. Yeah, that's pretty top-notch and threatening. Tuned carburetor, this one, now decreases the chainsaw charge time by 11% and no longer has the movement speed penalty. Okay, so he is straight up giving Hillbilly his charge time add-ons back. Did you put this one and the Mother's Helpers together? That's 19% quicker charge time, or decreased charge time. Pig House Gloves now prevents the Hillbilly from being affected by overheat. So with this add-on, you straight up remove overheat as a mechanic, which is a change that I would say he should have just made in general and saved himself some of the trouble, but he wants to be creative with this stuff. Fixed a bug with the Apex muffler where a chainsaw sprint started outside of the tear radius would remain silent even when in the tear radius, and vice versa. Okay, I'm not sure what that's about. I haven't heard of that bug, but moving on to Nurse. Increased movement speed to 4.4 meters a second, aka 110%. This is something I've been advocating for a long time, because people are like, oh, well, Nurse is so strong already, how could you make her 110? It literally wouldn't make that much of a difference, and we need to really standardize the movement speed of different killers, because every time a new one comes out, people are like, why don't we make it 110? And then people who want the killer to be strong like me, or like, why don't we make it 115? Which is a debate we still have with Trickster and Deathslinger and all them. So that would be a change I'd look forward to. Reduce terror radius to 24 meters. Fine. Reduced initial blink distance to 12 meters. Reduced chain blink distance to 8 meters. So I think it's reducing the blink distance on those, and I haven't played a lot of Nurse, and I don't have the math and everything down to a science in this game, so I don't really know what that stuff means, but I see reduce the blink distance for the first one and the second one, so it looks like a nerf to me. The effect of the add-on Jennifer's Last Breath, which it's going to be one of these ghostly looking things, right? It's going to now be base kit. So after blinking, it allows the nurse to immediately blink back to her original position by pressing the active ability button. Must be triggered before the nurse succumbs to fatigue. So the active ability button I've only seen used in one other add-on description, and it's the Spirits add-on that lets her teleport back to her husk, and I haven't used that add-on or this add-on, so I don't know what that button would be, whether it's X or something like that, but it's an interesting idea. Among all the changes that he's making, he would at least keep he's keeping the blinks in there, which I think that you could just rework Nurse altogether, keep her teleportation aspect as a thing, and then do something more interesting with her than just, oh, I go through a wall, I hit you, I go through a wall and a pallet, I hit you again, because no other killer can do that. But yeah, he's basically saying that instead of having to point your blink at the ground, then you would just press this button and then you'd go back to where you were. So that's a pretty cool idea, if you ask me. I've never even seen a nurse use this add-on, I don't think. And I'm guessing it just looks like another blink when you press that button and go back. So that would be pretty cool just to look at from a survivor perspective. Blink charge time has been reduced accordingly. I don't even know what that means. I guess it means like since you're going to be blinking less distance, you don't have to charge it up as much. That's all I can assume. Removed light burn because, as I said, it's a stupid mechanic. Because flashlights, not only flashlight save and blind the killer and stuff like that, but also disable their freaking ability. Because the light burn used on Nurse is one of the least talked about, where I'm pretty sure if a flashlight's being shined onto you, you can't blink. So it's risky for the survivors because they're slowing down just to shine their flashlight at you, but at the same time you're going like 85% or 90% or whatever, freaking slower than a survivor, and they're just stopping you from blinking as they're walking practically in place. It's just annoying. Lunges made during the chain blink window are now consistent with all other lunges, not this crap of like, oh, I have to blink right on top of you just to hit you, and then from the survivor perspective, she's nowhere near you and gets the freaking lunge somehow. Previously, these would be slightly shorter than usual due to being made with no momentum. Blinking into the middle of an object will now cause the nurse to blink through the object where applicable instead of stopping in front of it. Pocket watch now also increases the distance that chain blink can travel. It's this one. Instead of increases the time before the nurse goes into fatigue, which is very bad if you ask me. dull bracelet, which is this, instead of being a freaking joke add-on because it decreases the blink distance for more blood points, is actually going to make it useful. It now increases the distance that the chain blink can travel to 12 meters, but reduces the distance that the initial blink can travel to 8 meters. Charge times are adjusted accordingly. Okay, so it's like that Wesker thing where the, what does he say? So the chain blink, the second one, is going to go further, but the initial one is going to be shorter. So just like the medallion and the other thing for Wesker. Catatonic Boy's Treasure, which is just a pine cone, now reduces fatigue duration by 0.25 seconds. Yeah, he's using decimals and this one's using percent, so I don't really know how to line that up. Maybe he's changing it from 100% like it says here to 25%, because he's talking about the duration in terms of seconds, and this is just saying 100%, so I'm not sure. Bad Man Keepsake now reveals the aura of any survivor after the initial blink for 4 seconds. That's interesting, but I mean, wouldn't you be in fatigue and then you wouldn't even be able to see the person? The fatigue's not 4 seconds, I don't think, but still. Wow, I've never seen this add-on either. These killers have some really interesting add-ons that no one uses, because the same 2 or 3 that are useful every time. Because I just read this one for the first time now. Spasmodic Breath now increases the movement speed of the nurse to 4.8 meters a second. Wouldn't that make her, as we said before, 120%? And she just does that all the time. Okay. So it's not all the time, it's after you hit a survivor with a successful blink attack. It'll take away your blink, but instead of just being 115%, it's actually more creative than that, and it makes her go faster than a 115 for 60 seconds. That add-on I would totally use, like, all the time. Ataxic Respiration now causes survivors within 4 meters of the nurse's blink destination and the initial location to screen. That second part's important. So it's where she blinked and where she originally was, instead of just decreasing base blink fatigue, which is a useful add-on, more useful than the thing that this guy's saying, but, you know. Jennifer's Last Breath, which was this one again. No, Jenner's Last Breath, which is, so what was that other one I was reading? I might have just read that out of order then. Jenner's Last Breath now increases the distance of the initial blink to... Oh, it increases the distance of the initial blink to 20 meters, but reduces the chain blink to 4 meters. So he's trying to keep all that stuff in line, like you far blink really close to the survivor, and then you short blink and hit them, which is what nurses are going to be doing a lot of the time anyway, so... charge times are adjusted accordingly, of course. Campbell's Last Breath is now optional, and pressing the power button during the blink will activate its effects. Because right now it says after reappearing from a fully charged blink, the nurse immediately blinks at half charge in the direction she's currently facing. Which is what a lot of nurses do anyway, as I just said, but This one, it forces you to do that. So if you were on someone the first time and then you blink past them, then it's like, oh, you just missed out on that first chance, and then you probably don't hit them the second one. So you would press the power button during the blink to activate that effect. It can now be used even without a fully charged blink and will cause the chain blink to be the same charge rate as the initial blink. So that is very interesting. I didn't notice, or I didn't pick up on that it needed a fully charged blink. And he's saying that if you don't fully charge it with his changes, then instead of doing the short blink or half a charge immediately after, then it'll be the same distance from the charge of the initial blink. So that can potentially be like really good for just getting, almost like you're using it for distance, because say you don't charge it all the way, you just charge it most of the way, then you press the ability button, get the same almost fully charged blink. Yeah, it just seems super useful. Torn bookmark now reduces the nurse's movement speed to 3.5 meters a second, which, bro, isn't that like 92.5% or something like that? That's slow. Increases the initial blink distance to 20 meters. Increases the chain blink distance to 12 meters. So that's an increase on both of those of about 4 meters each. And it adjusts the charge times accordingly. And this add-on will trump all other add-ons, so you can't get the extra blink distance but also have another add-on that makes her move faster, because that would just be nuts. Matchbox now increases the nurse movement speed to 115%, removes one chain blink instead of, oh, that's what it does, it removes one blink charge now, and it increases the initial blink distance to 20 meters, and it trumps all other add-ons except for Torn Bookmark, which was the other one. So you could combine this and the Torn Bookmark to get an initial blink distance of 40 meters, which is the size of Wesker's terror radius right now, I'm pretty sure. That is very far. But removing one blink kind of defeats the purpose of you playing nurse once again, because you're just playing one blink nurse. In a public match, that's a weird note, chain 2 blinks and hit a survivors 30 times while undetectable. What is he talking about? That might be an inside joke, I don't know, because he showed an achievement saying the same thing right below it. The shape. Okay, so just leaving Huntress as is, I guess. She's perfect. So he's going to be looking at Evil Within, which a lot of people have their proposed changes for. Remove Tier 1 of Evil Within entirely. The former Tier 2's... what the heck? So formerly Tier 2 is now known as the original, and formerly Tier 3 is known as Risen. So Tier 1 would be Evil Within. Tier 1 as we know it now would be removed. So Tier 2 would now be Tier 1 Evil Within, and then Tier 3 would be renamed to Risen. So you're going to be charging up Evil Within to get the Risen thing, just like you would charge up the Gloaming on Dredge to get the Nightfall. Shape begins the trial with undetectable effect, which lasts for 60 seconds. That's interesting. This will be cut short if the shape is risen. Increased the tear radius to 32 meters, which he has a 6 meter tear radius in tier 1, but I'm pretty sure it's 32 meters whenever he's finally got himself going. After the undetectable status wears off, the shape's tear radius will slowly expand to the 32 meter range over a course of 60 seconds. This will be cut short if the shape is risen. So, risen, he's playing it up to be this really powerful thing that you get, and I'm assuming you still do it through stalking like you normally would. So he's cutting out all these other bonuses you'd get just because you got that one. So let's see what it actually does. The shape can now stalk a fully drained survivor at 50% the regular speed. So you're still punished for stalking a survivor to full, but it's not like before where you would just get nothing after that point. Because that was a thing that a lot of people complained about. Survivors will slowly regenerate stock at 0.25% each second. So it's saying not only can you not be denied of further stocks by fully stalking people, but survivors will regenerate stock that you need to get off them. And he says this begins after they haven't been stalked for 10 seconds and are not in a chase. So it's going to be really hard for you to actually fully stalk the survivor, considering that you would just get most of it off of them, move to the next person, and then you can come back later and they've got some new stock on them for you to take. He says this is paused while the shape is risen. While not stalking, the power meter will slowly drain back down until it is half filled at a rate of 0.25 C/S, whatever that means. That I don't like, but we'll see. Boyfriend's memo, which just increases your tier 1 lunge now. It would now prevent the shape from receiving undetectable, but you gain 100% blood points in the deviousness category. So I had hope for him whenever he was turning joke add-ons like that nurse one into something useful, but no, he wants to keep with the devs theme of giving the killers a joke add-on that actively hurts them. Blonde hair. Updated the wording to reflect the new terminology, so it's the same effect basically. And that's going to be the same for the hairbrush and all the other things that increase the stalking. Glass fragment increases the effect of the undetectable effect at the start of the trial by 60 seconds, so you'd have 2 minutes of undetectable. The shape's tear radius also no longer slowly expands. Undetectable is still cancelled if the shape is risen. Dead rabbit, instead of having a decreased, hang on, okay, I've been looking at this wrong all this time, because whenever I would run Dead Rabbit, I would just look at this and see the decreased tear radius of Evil Within 2 by 25%, and it would be like, okay, that's the end of it, but it actually increases the tear radius when Evil Within 3 is active by 25%, which is something I've never noticed. So he's changing it to decrease the shape's tear radius to 24 meters. While the shape is risen, the tear radius is increased to 40 meters. Mirror shard. So I'm looking ahead, and he's saying that he's not saying anything further about risen. So he's not giving Myers a new ability or whatever that he builds up to. He's just renaming the current one. So you're gonna go from tier 1 to tier 3 instantly, basically. So you skip the whole freaking, oh, I'm a stealth killer, but I only move so freaking slow at the start, and then tier 2 nonsense, and then tier 3. He's gonna take you straight from tier 1 to tier 3. Judith's Journal, which is this one. Instead of it's being obsession based, then it just increases the rate of survivors regenerating stock by 0.5 CS. Tombstone Piece, fully drained survivors can be stocked at 75% rate. So what does that mean? I guess because Tombstone Piece takes so long to charge up that you've almost fully stocked a lot of the people at that point. So I guess he's saying that since you're obviously probably going to be fully stocking people at some point, that they can be stocked at 75% normal rate, even while they're oh, hang on. The fact that he hasn't included the Mori part of the Tombstone Piece, I think he's straight up getting rid of that part, so it's only going to make it to where instead of fully drained survivors getting stocked at 50% the rate, it's going to be at 75% the rate, which would almost probably make it worth it for you to continue to stock fully maxed out people. Lock of Hair, what's this one? Oh, he already just updated the wording. Scratched Mirror reduces the speed of the power drain by 0.125 C/S. I feel like you just shouldn't have that at all, but that's just me. This Tombstone, fully drained survivors can be stocked at 100% rate, so that's what makes it so powerful. So like even more than the Tombstone Piece. And then Fragrant Tuft of Hairs, going from permanent tier 3 to the shape no longer begins the trial undetectable. The shape's terror radius no longer expands, and the shape begins the trial risen. So the shape is permanently risen. And then he's just going over the evil incarnate thingy, which I don't really care to read. You might, but you can look up his achievement changes if you're so interested in them, because I'm mostly wanting to focus on what changes he's going to bring to the game, not stuff like achievements. The next few killers he goes through really quick, and I guess he is touching on the Huntress, he just did it in a different order. The Hag prevents the Hag from placing a trap within 8 meters of a hook survivor. Traps already placed will be instantly triggered, so you can't pre-trap a hook, put a survivor on it, and then it technically is a loophole around that first part. I still think that it's a bad idea. Hag needs more power to her. She needs buffs, not nerfs. The only people who because having one trap at the hook is not a big deal. You just crouch through it, unhook, you're good. The people who I'm assuming this change is tailored towards, who just put like 7 freaking traps around hook and think that that's gonna do anything for them, are the baby hags who baby survivors lose to because they don't know what the heck they're doing. A lot of the better hags out there, like Michi or whatever, are they don't even trap hook, they trap around the hook, so they're already doing stuff like that. So what you're doing is basically hindering people who want to pressure the unhook, which is what you sometimes have to do as killer. So don't really agree with that change. For the doctor, survivors who are shocked by shock therapy or static blast suffer from the electrified status effect for 30 seconds. Who are shocked by shock therapy or static blast suffer from the electric status effect for 30 seconds. But what does that mean? Electrified. I'm guessing that means static charge. That's the only thing I can think of. Oh, hold on. I believe what he's referring to is this. If I can see anywhere in the description where it says electrified. Survivors struck by shock therapy gain increased madness, and any interactions that are performed are immediately interrupted. I'm assuming that's what he's talking about. So instead of us playing this stupid game where the shocker has to shock you like 2 to 8 times just to get you at a loop so that you can't drop the pallet, survivors who are shocked by shock therapy or static blast once suffer from that effect for 30 seconds. So instead of him just having to spam shock you, then he's going to be able to actually play as a freaking 115 and not get slowed down by using his ability all the time. So that's a definite buff in my book. And let me go back to Huntress. I know why he did Huntress out of order, because Myers was the 5th character added. It's just that when they made Huntress and made her free DLC and all that, she got moved to this spot here for some reason. Only changes he's got is Soldier's Putty, now increased movement speed for every missing hatchet by 0.4 meters a second up to, every missed hatchet by 0.04 meters a second up to a maximum of 0.2 meters a second. And that's just straight up permanent, it looks like. So if you miss a bunch of hatchets during a match, you're going to want this add-on, because you could potentially go 0.2 meters a second faster, which would make her 115 by the end of the match. I like that. Almost could be a base thing. Iridescent Head now reduces the hatchets to 1, which can be increased up to 3 with add-ons, talking about infantry belt. Survivors hit by hatchets outside of a 24 meter range are automatically put into the dying state. So it's going to be like that Death Slinger add-on, where if he gets a shot on you from afar, he can reel you in and insta-down you. So this is old Iridescent Head brought back with limitations. And then adjusted hitbox shape to be more cylindrical instead of spherical. So right now I guess her hatchet hitboxes are circles, and they need to be more like cylinders, kind of like the survivors' bodies and other things. That's gonna require you to be like way more accurate with your hatchets, like stupidly so. Almost to the point where like you might as well have as quick of a ready up time as Deathslinger with his gun. Freddy, these changes have the official general IV seal of approval, although I'm sure that might be general 4, but whatever. Awake survivors do not see or hear the nightmare, so bringing back original Freddy, so I'm probably not gonna agree with anything that he puts forward about this, because old Freddy was freaking stupid, and how he was basically the exact same thing as like a naked M1 killer with no other alternative abilities. He just had to put you to sleep first, and if you failed a skill check, he had to do it all over again. and he had to do it manually for each survivor, and it just gave them a free lead on you, and they could rush a gen in your face because you couldn't physically hit them. Why people en masse want that version of Freddy to come back, especially General... I always call him General V. Oh, it is General V. I recognize the L as a capital I. Why they would want that version of Freddy to come back is beyond me, especially General V, who's like the Freddy freaking master compared to everyone else who plays this game, apparently. Once targeted by Dream Demon, survivors enter the Dream Transition, which lasts for 5 seconds. So if you don't know anything about old Freddy, watch videos of how he played and then come back so that you understand what the heck's going on, because it's nothing like the Freddy we have now. During the Dream Transition, survivors will intermittently see the nightmare, getting a glimpse every 1 second for 0.5 seconds. What does that mean? So you're going to see him for 1 second every 0.5 seconds. I guess it would be like you see him for half a second every second. So every other half second you see him. A survivor will automatically enter the Dream Transition after 90 seconds has passed, so he doesn't have to manually put you in, kind of like right now. After the Dream Transition, a survivor falls asleep. A sleeping survivor has their aura revealed to the nightmare when further away than 60 meters, which I do think was an old feature of him. Suffers an action speed penalty of 30%, which is crazy because that's like pentimento speed, and it's the thing that people complain to death about him, even though his ability itself provided like very little passive slowdown. It was just add-ons stacked on top of each other that was a legitimate like critique or whatever, even though the numbers were small even when put together. Because it says right here, in the dream world, survivors are affected with blah blah blah. Okay, so dream world with current Freddy literally does not slow them down at all. It's only with those few add-ons, 1 or 2, that were removed from the game entirely. That's nice to know. I wonder by action speed of 30%, they're talking about just healing and doing gens, or like vaulting and stuff too, because that could be nuts. Like, is Dream World an actual threat? So don't quote me on what I said a second ago, I guess. This is seeming more interesting by the second. Sees the auras of alarm clocks. So if a survivor tries to wake themselves up, he's able to intercept them. Sleeping survivors can get hooked or interact with an alarm clock to wake themselves up. So you get woken up from being hooked or using an alarm clock, same as now. Awake survivors can also wake up sleeping survivors, same as it is now. Awake survivors can interact with any alarm clock to reset their micro-sleep timer. Because right now you can only interact with your clock after you've been put in the dream world, and it spawns yours as the furthest one from you, I'm pretty sure. Survivors who wake up via the alarm clock are protected from micro-sleep for 30 seconds. So by micro-sleep, is he talking about just sleep in general? Because he started using that like 2 sentences ago. I guess micro-sleep is talking about them falling asleep. Either passively or maybe even being put to sleep manually by Freddy. So just waking up through any means, no, through the alarm clock only. protects you from the micro sleep timer for 30 seconds, same as it is now. They can still be manually entered into the dream transition by Freddy. So that I like, because it's saying, oh, the survivor has a thing that trumps the killer thing, but the killer thing can trump the survivor thing that was supposed to trump the other killer thing. Retains the dream projection and dream snare abilities, so he still has those. I'm wondering how they'll do that, because that's another button you have to do just to put the manual putting asleep button back. The nightmare's movement speed is only reduced when placing a snare after it has been fully charged. So not while you're freaking placing it, waiting for that meter to build up, because that's freaking stupid. Sheet block, which is going to be the brown one. Now reduces the dream transition time to 4.5 seconds, trumps all other add-ons except for unicorn block, which he later says will reduce the dream transition to 3.5 seconds, trumps all other add-ons. So he's making that into a thing. So wouldn't that make the sheet block, the brown one, the strongest out of all of them? Because that's stronger than the unicorn block. Okay, I see. Unicorn block reduces the dream transition to 3.5 seconds, trumps all other add-ons. So that's the fastest you're going to be able to reduce the dream transition. So it would be 3.5 seconds instead of a full 5 seconds. It's just a lot of numbers and thought processes to get through. So that trumps everything. The unicorn block, which is the green one. And sheet block would now trump all other add-ons except for that unicorn block. Guard and Rake now increases the range at which the nightmare can pull survivors to sleep by 2.5 meters. I would say don't make that a variable, just give Freddy a decent range that he can put survivors to sleep from, and then we'll be fine. You don't need to make it variable through add-ons and stuff, because that's the type of stuff I never like when it comes to add-ons. Prototype claws now increase the range at which the nightmare can pull survivors to sleep by 5 meters. So that's even further. In fact, twice as far as the last one. Plus they stack, I'm assuming, because it doesn't say they can't. Outdoor rope now grants an additional. Before I move on, that just sounds like a cool build to me if we're going with this direction, like Sniper Freddy putting people to sleep from 7.5 meters further away. Yeah, I've enjoyed this rework of Freddy so far. Outdoor rope now grants, which one is that? Now grants an additional 4% action speed penalty. So on top of what it does now, which is just survivors' repairs can be heard from 8 meters further away. It also gives 4% action speed penalty, so his slowdown add-ons are coming back. The cat block, instead of snares and dream pallets inflicting hemorrhage for 60 seconds, it's going to reduce the dream transition by 0.5 seconds. Unicorn block, talked about. Paint thinner, now increase the range at which the nightmare can pull survivors to sleep by 7.5 meters, so that's another one. Pill bottle, instead of just making him freaking invisible while carrying a survivor or some crap like that, and making his draw distance less. Pill bottle now prevents the sleeping survivors seeing the nightmare until he is visible, until he is within 32 meters. So instead of this crap that we have right now where awake survivors freaking see him invisible when he's carrying a survivor, which you know where he is anyway because he's carrying someone. It's now gonna just make it to where survivors who are asleep, they don't see him at all until he's within 32 meters, which is an actual creative and useful add-on. Swing chains, instead of just, because this is the biggest joke of them all, instead of just making them 50% louder with their freaking footsteps, then it's going to add an additional 2% action speed penalty per sleeping survivor, so that would encourage people to use the second objective and wake up, even more so than they already are. Because let's not forget the 30% action speed penalty that he was talking about at the beginning. These add-ons that add more is adding more onto that. So Pentimento right now, I've seen survivor teams pretty much just leave it up and push through it. But with an additional 5% or 2% or whatever, it starts to stack up, and at that point they're like, okay, we need to wake up to get the slowdown off. Which is why people said that Thanatophobia Pentimento was too OP, and so they completely ran Thanatophobia into the ground, and now nobody plays it. But getting back to Karu's changes, Z block, instead of just giving hemorrhage to freaking snares and pallets for 90 seconds, now reduces the dream transition time by 1.5 seconds. Red paintbrush now reduces microsleep timer to 60 seconds instead of whatever it was earlier. Was it 90 seconds? Yes. Yeah, that's the timer he's suggesting. And it removes the microsleep protection from the alarm clock, so you could wake up with the alarm clocks, but it's going to take away that invulnerability that it gives you afterwards. And then black box, instead of blocking exit gates for a mere 15 seconds after they were open, it now causes all survivors who were unhooked or who unhook themselves to enter into the dream transition. Increases the duration of dream transition by 2 seconds. So it's giving you a trade-off, which I think is a reasonable one, where you're awake while unhook. After you unhook yourself or get unhooked by someone else, then you're entering into the dream transition. But it's gonna increase the transition by 2 seconds, so it's gonna take like 7 whole seconds for you to get in there. So that was one of the most creative killer changes so far. I like how he worked old Freddy in with the new Freddy, and somehow made me happy by the end of it, because I loathe people wanting to bring old Freddy back. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he kept new Freddy stuff, like the dream snares and stuff like that. Did he keep dream projection, which is teleporting to the generators, or did he replace that for putting them manually into dream? Okay, he retains the dream projection and dream snare abilities. So there's several add-ons here, or one of them, maybe. Does he do away with dream pallets? Let me see. Because he might have just been like, screw it, dream pallets are going to be useless all the time, but... Because honestly, I wouldn't put it past him to do that. Yeah, so the fact that he didn't mention dream pallets at all in that section, I think he's just done away with them. Pig. I always forget which one was added first, Pig or Freddy. Reverse bear traps placed after the exit gates have been powered will automatically activate instead of them having to do a gen to power it. So that's a buff to those head traps 100%. The fact that they're active even after all the gens have been done. While a reverse bear trap is on a survivor, the in-game collapse will permanently move at 50% the speed. I'm wondering if that's saying that even when it's the yellow timer, it's still going to move the speed of the gray timer, or if there's going to be 50% speed of that gray timer as well, because that would be really interesting to see. Updated the reverse bear trap UI to properly reflect the length of the timer. This will change if the timer length changes, because there's sometimes a survivor where it's like, oh, I only have like 5 seconds to put the freaking key in and get my head trap off, but the actual thing is like 10 seconds or whatever, because the timer kind of just sits there at the end for a few seconds. Stuff like that can kind of give you a false perception of how much time you have. Amanda's Secret, which is going to be the pink one. No. Amanda's Secret is now going to cause reverse bear traps to be automatically activated regardless of generator completion. So it's baking that that base kit thing into an add-on, which I think is really interesting, and I like that he did that. The clown with the freaking afterpiece tonic. I don't know why he has no build equipped right now. Split ammunition count of the afterpiece tonic and the afterpiece antidote. So I'll have 4 purple bottles and 2 yellow bottles, and that's going to be the maximum. Reloading will reload both pools simultaneously. So I really like those changes. It's going to save a lot of time and stuff on his part. Spirit exiting the phase walk will always reduce power to 0%. Are you serious? Gamma's going to have to get a load of this. So after you come out of phasing, your power will automatically be reduced to 0. So I'm guessing this guy is just going to be doing a nerf spirit thing for the most part, because that is absolutely ridiculous. The people who cry that spirit is still too strong say, oh, you just need to use your power in short bursts or whatever. Well, that completely goes out the window with these changes. Increased recharge rate of Yamaoka's Haunting, however, to 0.5 C a second, meaning it now takes 10 seconds to fully recharge instead of 15 or whatever it was, which I like, because it kind of downplays the fact that, oh, you came out of your power, it's at 0 freaking percent now. While phase walking, all sound effects are played as mono sound instead of directionally. That would be weird. Like not being able to tell what direction people are in. So this is literally just nerf spirit. She's not top 3 anymore, I'm telling you. Reworked passive phasing to be controlled action has been renamed to distorted phase. Press the active ability button while Yamaoka's Haunting is fully charged to consume 50% of the power bar and begin phasing in and out of you for 2 seconds. Okay, so after it's fully charged, you can press the button and you'll consume your power 50% slower, but you'll be appearing in and out of view for 2 seconds at a time. That's pretty cool. Increase the rarity of the origami crane to uncommon. Where's that crane? So it wants to change it to yellow. Okay. Juniper bonsai. If I can find that. Now extends the duration of distorted phase by 1 second and reduces the consumption to 35% of Yamaoka's haunting. Okay, so instead of 50% of it, it would be using 35% of it, but you would be shown out of phase like every 1 second instead, or it extends the duration, so it would be 3 seconds in, 3 seconds out. Increase the rarity of Rin's Broken Rotch to rare. Okay. Increase the rarity of Rusty Flute to rare. Or to very rare, which is purple. Just changing up a lot of the add-on rarities for some reason. Why he's done that for Spirit and none of the other killers is kind of baffling to me. Extended the range of Senko Hanabi to 8 meters and its duration to 15 seconds. So when Yamaoka's haunting ends, the husk explodes and any vault locations within 4 meters are blocked for 5 seconds, so he's buffing it to 8 meters and it lasts 15 seconds. Because right now you see nobody freaking using this. The Uchiwa now has a new effect. It reveals the aura of any survivors within 16 meters of your husk when you exit a phase walk for 3 seconds. Okay, that's cool. You could pair that with a Lethal Pursuer or whatever. Reduced the rarity of Dried Cherry Blossom to common. Right? I'm assuming he has changes for it as well. Dried Cherry Blossom allows the spirit to still see scratch marks and shows pools of blood while phase walking. However, reduces all sound made to 0%. No longer shows killer instinct while phasing. So it's taking away the killer's instinct part. It's letting the spirit still see scratch marks and pools of blood while phasing, but you have no sound. That's actually creative and actually changes how the killer's power works, because people saying that, oh, Dried Cherry Blossom and freaking Ring changes how Spirit's power works. No, it really doesn't. It just gives killer instinct and moves faster. This one actually takes away the sound which you would normally need. Combine the effects of Uchiwa and the Kintsugi Teacup into the Kintsugi Teacup add-on. So we changed this thing so you don't get the instant recharge when getting pallets done. He's combining that and this thing, I believe. Yeah, so you're gonna get stunned by a pallet, restores your power fully, and also instantly recharges your haunting after breaking a pallet or wall. So instant recharge after breaking a pallet or wall or getting pallet stun. That's a very nice pink add-on right there. Reduced the rarity. Oh, I've already read that. Sorry. Mother-daughter ring no longer removes scratch marks, but only increases movement speed during phase walk by 10%. Mother-daughter ring now allows Yamaoka's haunting to be used even when not fully charged. So mother-daughter ring doesn't remove scratch marks, but okay, so you'll be able to see scratch marks with it, but it only increases movement speed during phase walk by 10%. pretty bad, but it also no longer allows Yamaoka's haunting to be... What? Mother-daughter ring now allows Yamaoka's haunting to be used even when not fully charged. So... Okay, that's interesting. There's no other spirit add-on that does that. You have to wait for it to come all the way back up for you to use your power even for like a second. So I like that. I think I'm gonna try to get through the rest of the killers and then call it a day on this. But I do want to get through the rest of this as well. Just looking ahead a little bit, I wonder if he had changes for Wesker out, or if he hadn't come out at that time. Yes, he does have the mastermind on here. I've scrolled down and I looked at that status effect, electrified, and it says a survivor who is electrified carries with them a shock of electricity, so basically carrying a static charge, although it's a separate thing, I guess. Another survivor getting within 2 meters of the electrified survivor will also electrify them, causing them to scream and interrupt whatever action they are doing, as well as incapacitate them for 5 seconds. Electrified survivors can safely enter the 2-meter zone of other electrified survivors. Electrified will fade away after a set period of time. So, with the doctor thing that he said, it was for 30 seconds or so. But yeah, that's really cool. Because it's like having an electric charge on you, but different. The plague. He must have skipped over Legion. I guess he thinks Legion is a perfect killer as he is. Plague is now able to activate Corrupt Purge from anywhere on the map. Doing so requires a short channel of 2.5 seconds facing any pool of devotion on the map, and will slow the plague to 1 meters a second during this time. Ouch. The plague's corrupted pool of devotion will now spawn as close to the center of the map as possible. So that's really cool. So, on top of everything that plague can do now, she also is able to activate Corrupt Purge from anywhere. But that's going to put you through that channeling slowdown time. So you can go to the fountains manually and get the instant, or you can do it from afar like that. And the plague's default corrupted pool that always spawns at base will now spawn close to the center of the map, because that's a big problem for her. If it spawns in the freaking far off corner of the map and survivors never cleanse anything else, then you're pretty much screwed. It skews a lot of match results with plague, I think. And then we're skipping Ghostface, skipping Demogorgon. Really? I guess he might, it might not be, because he's skipping Oni as well, skipping Deathslinger, all the way to Executioner. I don't think he's skipping these killers because he thinks they're perfectly fine per se, but maybe he's just not an expert on those and doesn't know what to do for them. So he's just said, I'm not going to make any changes to them, because these are all the changes he would make to the game. We can't expect him to cover every single thing the game has to offer. That would just take like way more thinking time than he's already put into this thing. For the Executioner, Pyramid Head, Completed generators and broken hooks will no longer cause, hang on. Completed generators and broken hooks will no longer cause trail elements to become restricted trail elements. A hook returning from being broken will automatically cause all nearby trail elements to become restricted trail elements. What is he talking about? I've racked my brain and honestly I have no clue what that means. Moving on. Increased Cage of Atonement relocation radius to 13 meters. So, I guess right now, you can be just a bit outside of the range of the cage and then still not cause it to relocate, because that was a measure done so that pyramid heads couldn't just camp you at your cage. And then Cage of Atonement, under his changes, the radius would be increased to 13 meters, so you stick inside that range for too long, the person's going to relocate. Leopard print fabric. What the heck is that? I don't know any of these add-ons. Here we go. Leopard print fabric replaces Killer Instinct with aura reading for 1 second. That's interesting. Combine that with it goes without saying, anything that's going to reveal auras is going to go well with Lethal Pursuer. That's why Lethal Pursuer is such a well-designed and versatile perk that survivors complain about. Misty Day, Remains of Judgment. Is that the name of a picture? Yes. Now replaces Killer Instinct with aura reading for 1.5 seconds. Instead of these useless, I mean, not useless, I mean it's increasing the Killer Instinct duration, which you can use to snipe them, but aura reading is definitely preferred. Scarlet Egg now replaces Killer Instinct with aura reading until the survivor steps out of the torment trail, and for an additional 1.5 seconds. Rust-colored Egg now increases the width of Punishment of the Damned by 0.5 meters on either side. That's probably the most useful add-on yet. Obsidian Goblet now causes Punishment of the Damned to automatically break any pallet or breakable wall it comes into contact with, as well as blocks any windows it travels through. That is freaking nuts. Almost wish that was a base thing. The Iridescent Seal of Metatron now causes Punishment of the Damned to also apply the Tormented status effect on any hit survivors. Dude, these are the add-ons that this killer is needed, not this crap of like, increases the killer's instinct, increases how long it lasts and stuff like that. So well done for Karu here designing those. The Blight reworked collision to prevent sliding along obstacles, because it was I mean, I've surely benefited from slide hits and stuff like that, but it's really not the dev's original vision for the killer. He's supposed to be bumping on things, not sliding on things. So I mean, as long as I'm bumping on stuff as I want to instead of sliding on them, that's all fine with me. And plus, people can't hide behind the excuse that they usually do, like, oh, Blight is so overpowered because all you have to do is know the slide techs and blah blah blah. Okay, well, how strong is he without those slide techs? Reworked how frame rate interacts with moving the camera to prevent excessive flicking. Thank you, because the flicks is also a game-breaking thing, which doesn't reflect his the strength that the devs were going for with him. This change should also apply to the Hillbilly and the Executioner, to name a few. reworked the Hillbillies, the Blight's hurt box post swing to hopefully make his hits more consistent. Thank you. Because it's like right now, you are super close to the survivor when you press the hit button. The freaking base of the cane hits them and it's super accurate or whatever, but when you freaking don't and you try to hit them with the end of the cane, it's like, oh, vacuum your hit away from them practically. Increase the cooldown of missed lethal rush attacks to 3 seconds. So, punishing you for using your power. That's how I see it. The fatigue duration of Blighted Corruption is now increased by 0.25 seconds after each additional rush token consumed after the initial 2. Fixed compound 7 to be less buggy and less jarring. I'm assuming I'm talking about this. Automatically face the nearest survivor within 16 meters after a slam. I never liked using this add-on, because you'd want to face them manually and then it just does it automatically, and then sometimes as it says it's just a jarring transition. Fix the indicator on chipped monocle to be less obtrusive. That's this one, the training add-on, if you ask me. You could do the same for that Twins add-on, but you might touch up on that earlier. Because the Twins add-on, the Nurse one, and the just the base thing that a Pinhead has. I mean, not really Pinhead, but definitely with the Twins, the freaking light pillar being in front of you is definitely obstructing your view. Cankerthorn now reduces the additional fatigue. It's going to be this one by 0.125 seconds. He really wants to destroy Blight here. Blighted Rat now increases the movement speed by a flat 4% regardless of rush, so it's not going to stack for consecutive rushes. Blighted Crow's the same thing, except it's a flat 5%, not even freaking 6. Adrenaline Vial no longer increases available rush tokens. What? So you want an add-on that simply recharges your rush tokens 1 second faster, increases it by 10%, I guess, increases maximum look angle while rushing, and then decreases turn rate by 55 freaking %. You want to take away the 2 rush tokens. Nerf Adrenaline Vial, the meme lives. Summoning Stone now also blocks dropped pallets from being vaulted. That's something we've needed in this game for a while. Soul Chemical causes the survivors to face continuous skill checks for 3 seconds instead of just 1. Alchemist's Ring now increases rush token recharge by 50% for 3 seconds after hitting a survivor with lethal rush, so destroying this add-on as we know it. Iridescent Blight Tag now reduces wow, I just had like 2 syllables there. Increases reduces available rush tokens by 1, so you don't have to combo it with this freaking yellow one just to get it. And then Compound 33 no longer causes hindered in order to break pallets and breakable walls. The Blight must connect with a lethal rush. So what are you doing with this add-on, really? It doesn't cause hindered, and in order to break pallets and breakable walls, the Blight still has to connect with a lethal rush. So you're just getting rid of the add-on or something? That's what it looks like to me, because all I see left after that is slamming pallets or breakable walls will destroy them and stun the blight for 1.5 seconds. It's a quick recovery, but still you are fundamentally destroying this add-on. Now to the twins. While Charlotte is dormant, she will slowly move closer to Victor's current location at a speed of 0.25 meters a second. This is what I want to see. The twins actually doing stuff like in the meantime of you controlling one of them. Victor's shriek range is now 2 meters larger than his killer instinct range. So when he's on someone, they can hear him from further away by just 2 meters than his killer instinct range. So survivors who hear that can immediately move away and not be caught by killer instinct. Are you nerfing twins right now? Seriously? I get that it's like a quality of life change from the survivor perspective, but what is going on? He's had me looking forward so much to some of these changes, and then I've been absolutely disgusted with other of these changes, but let's keep reading. Increase time to regrow Victor to 15 seconds. I don't know how long it takes now, but it just says after some time has passed, because the devs don't like to put actual numbers in there. But considering it's increased time more than it freaking is now, that's crazy. Increased time to crush Victor to 0.55 seconds. That's probably still going to be generous as heck, especially with your tiny increase of a little over half a second. So that change probably isn't going to do much. You miss a freaking pounce with Victor, they kick you, you lose your power for 15 seconds. Reduced successful pounce cooldown to 3 seconds. There should be no cooldown. We don't want to reduce it, we want to get rid of it. Because you literally take the time to injure the person, to freaking run up to them with Victor and down them manually like that, and then you gotta wait. Right now it's like 5 more seconds or 10 more seconds before you can switch back to freaking Charlotte. Waiting any amount of time at all is ridiculous. The twins are not a high of a monster. They are freaking destroyed by people who know how to play against them. If Victor is within the anti-camp zone when a survivor is hooked, he will automatically be crushed. So you can't do that anymore intentionally or accidentally. Reduce time to switch between Victor and Charlotte to 2 seconds. It should be near instant, including reducing the time it takes for Charlotte to fully awake to 1 second. It should be near instant. Like, these should be fractions of a second that he's talking about instead of full-on seconds. Because the twins feel sluggish as heck and like not very well put together at all. There's cooldowns and animations you gotta sit through and everything, and he doesn't seem to be wanting to deal with that as much as he is alleviating them a bit, I guess. Added a new ability, blood transfusion. What's this about? 75-second cooldown, activatable as either Victor or Charlotte. Brief channel of 2 seconds before the ability activates, so there's a bit of a charge up. Teleport to the location of Charlotte and Victor. Victor is automatically exploded and begins the period of regrowth. Charlotte takes control, instantly waking up if previously dormant. For each alive survivor, reduce the cooldown of blood transfusion by 15 seconds. Fixed cat's figurine marker to be less obtrusive, and that's a separate thing. So what is blood transfusion? You just teleport location of Charlotte and Victor. That's the exact words it says. Teleport location of Charlotte and Victor. Victor is automatically exploded and begins the period of regrowth. Charlotte takes control, instantly waking up a previously dormant. For each survivor alive, reduce the cooldown of blood transfusion by 15 seconds. So if there are 4 people alive, it would be a 15-second cooldown. This has got to be like one of the weakest special abilities for Killer I've ever freaking seen. All you're doing is teleporting to is it Charlotte's location or Victor's location? And you're doing it instantly. But that's something that me and other people who play Twins would be asking to be a base thing. Because he's otherwise keeping the freaking... He's justifying keeping the freaking cooldowns and all that bullcrap on this killer because he's added a secondary effect that does it instantly, and it becomes longer as you successfully do your objective and kill survivors. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. It's just poor design. Cat's Eye now causes Victor to shriek only when holding a fully charged pounce or idle. Cat's Eye. Instead of him being freaking silent when fully charged. So was it doing like the reverse of what it does now? It only causes him to shriek whenever he is idle or has a fully charged pounce. Otherwise he's silent, because that would be kind of cool to do. Bloody Black Hood now reduces the time for Victor to regrow by 2 seconds. So you'll have 13 seconds till he comes back. Spinning Top, it's this one, now causes blood transfusion to be active from the start of the trial. What would that even do? Spinning Top now causes blood transfusion to be active from the start of the trial. So I guess, like the Dredges, not only his Nightfall, but just his teleport ability and Sadako's teleport ability in general, it lets it be available at the start of the trial instead of it being automatically on the 75-second freaking cooldown, or 15-second, whatever. That's such an insignificant thing. But he's got another effect. It now causes Victor to begin the trial detached and Charlotte to begin the trial dormant. Survivors still hear the sound effect. Yeah, why do the Twins play a map-wide sound effect whenever they're switching between each other and releasing Victor and all that? It's giving them away, and it's giving the survivors a freaking heads up. I don't get it. You're literally tailoring this killer to give the survivors loads of heads ups and counterplays. Iridescent Pendant. No one uses these freaking things. Except maybe Silenced Cloth, I don't know. Iridescent Pendant now causes exposed regardless of what state Victor was in when he was crushed. Reduces the duration to a mere 30 seconds. So if you kick him while he's dormant, it only does the exposed status effect then. So his changes is suggesting that after reducing the duration to only 30 seconds instead of 45, then just any time you kill him, then you're exposed for 30 seconds, whether it's off your shoulder, if he's idle, if he misses a thing and you cook him. So that at least is like the most decent thing he's given this killer, I think. And it's a pink. Trickster. Oh boy. The main event can now be activated whenever once charged, instead of you having a limited time to freaking use it, which is stupid. Reduces the duration of the main event from 15 seconds to 8 seconds. I don't know about that, man. The laceration meter now only decays automatically while within the trickster's lullaby range. It shouldn't decay at all. You'd have to, you're supposed to pull the knives out manually, or at least have it be a very slow decay. Why do knives freaking dissolve once they've been stuck into you? That's my question. Decreases the time for the laceration meter to begin decaying to 8 seconds. So you're nerfing Trickster with that. Survivors outside of the Trickster's lullaby will have to manually remove blades. Oh, well, there you go. An action similar to removing Pinhead's chains, except they must be stationary during this time. Removing blades will, while injured, will cause the survivor to be affected by a deep wound status effect. Okay, so I was skeptical at first, but that seems pretty good, if you ask me. The Nemesis made it easier to reach mutation rate 2. It requires 4 contamination points. Made it harder to reach tier 3, which requires 20 contamination points. At least he understands freaking this, because people who just railed on against Nemesis getting to tier 2 way too fast and got Marvin's blood freaking nerfed, didn't understand that, you know, your killer who is tier based with his ability cannot do much and is not that strong if he takes so long to get to even tier 2. Like that would be saying, oh, Myers spends way too little time in freaking tier 1. And it's like, no. Just bouncing around casuals, I guess. But back to Karu's good ideas. Increase the duration of the hindered status effect upon initially contaminating the survivor to 0.6 seconds. I don't know what the normal time is, but it definitely needs to do it for longer, because it's like half a freaking second or less. Decreased the cooldown of Tentacle Strike if it caused survivor contamination instead of dealing damage. So it's not what people were asking for, where it's dealing damage just with the Tentacle Strike, but he's at least saying, hey, you have a lighter cooldown if you're just infecting them. I feel like GoodBoyKaru is just trying to appease survivors with some of this, or I'm just super killer biased, but it seems like half measures to me on a lot of this stuff. Increased number of supply crates to 6 instead of 5, I guess. Massively improved zombie pathfinding AI, which is something we need because they get caught or walk into the corner of the map way too freaking often. Despite the claims of survivors who say, "Ooh, the zombies always face camping me and always pushing me off gens." Removed the linger tech, which is a bad idea if you ask me, because most of the time that's the only way you're gonna get his freaking ability on survivors with good movement. What the linger tech is, for those who don't know, or the I forget what True Talent calls it, the delay tech or the extension tech or something like that. It's where you if you're talking with controllers, you press L2 to hold it out, you press R2 to do the whip attack, but as you do it, you kind of move to the right or to the left as you're doing it. It covers more ground, like facing forward, but horizontally, you know, so that it's not a freaking pincushion needle-sized hitbox that it normally is. So removing that tech is definitely a bad idea if you ask me. The Stars Field Combat Manual, what the heck is that? Oh, it's this brown thing. Now reveals the aura of the affected survivor, instead of just a zombie turning freaking yellow after hitting a survivor. It's still not gonna do much, unless the zombies are actually hitting survivors, but it's something. The knee parasite, not to be confused with the survivor from this game, now causes permanent oblivious until the survivor cures themselves with a vaccine. That is very freaking strong. Oh, it almost kind of did that now, I'm just noticing. It's because it says, or until the survivor receives a vaccine. But the change he's suggesting, that would make the add-on almost good enough to be a pink one, I'd say. For sure. Jill's Sandwich. Right now it just reveals the survivor's aura for 12 seconds after they unlock a supply case. It now applies after a survivor has vaccinated themselves, which it's kind of a give and take, because if you see their aura opening the supply case, then you know by the time that you get there, you'll have seen their aura, so you'll be walking there already. So it's like a preemptive, you can get to them. If you combine that with this thing right here, survivors exposed for 60 seconds after using a vaccine, then that could like get you an insta down right there. So him saying that he'd rather have it after the survivor has given themselves the cure instead of as they're opening the box. It kind of gives survivors more counterplay to this, but it also shows their aura when they're running rather than staying still, putting the freaking vaccine on. So it's a give and take, not a straight up nerf or buff. A broken recovery coin now removes 2 supply cases from the trial instead of just 1. But the fact that you've upped the supply case from 5 to 6 basically makes this, it negates the buff you're giving it, because why he would give more supply cases at base to the survivors is kind of a joke to me. Wesker and Nemesis, especially Wesker, have so many freaking cures for their viruses or whatever that survivors are using them throughout the whole freaking match. You're having to hit them so many more times with your power just to apply it to them, and they're like never-endingly running out of those freaking things. And I guess that's kind of a legitimate fear that survivors have, where oh, there's only a finite amount of cures or whatever, that's OP. Not with the amount of that you're being freaking supplied. Nemesis, especially within reason, needs no more supply cases than like 4, because that's 1 for each survivor. And then he has to reapply his freaking infection to you, which gives you a sprint burst. Just for you taking that cure. It's like, can you not grasp this? That is literally a counter that is built into this killer. It is a second objective, but you're buying yourself so much more time than he's having to freaking spend on you. Because he chases you, all he can get is a freaking infection on you. Because he thinks, oh, I'm gonna need to use my ability on this person later, at least they'll be infected so I can, and then I can down them quicker. That initial chase where he just infected you, and then you go off and cure yourself, he invested time to freaking do that instead of chasing the other survivors, injuring them, all of that. So that's a trade-off of his time. And you turn that into a negative trade by taking the cure. That's a bit of a rant or explanation there, but people should be able to understand this, surely, if they think about it from the killer's perspective for like 5 seconds. What the heck is going on in this house? People going in and out the doors every 2 seconds. Shattered Stars badge, which is this one. Now increases zombie movement speed by plus 2.5 meters a second for 60 seconds whenever a generator is completed. I'm not sure how fast they go from that, but I'm hoping that it's faster than this. Iridescent umbrella badge now applies exposed until any survivor is contaminated. What does that mean? Because right now it says survivors are inflicted with exposed when using a vaccine. The new one that he's suggesting is now going to apply it until any survivor is contaminated. So, if that is what I think it means, then it means that if you cure yourself, you'll be exposed until you get contaminated again. In which case, that's a pretty good add-on. For real. Enough to change up people's play styles, like how they play against him, because they don't want to be insta-down all that time, just for taking a cure. Cenobite, surprisingly, he just skips over. Artist. He says crows are now able to fly up slopes and down slopes, and I mean they kind of are already, but I'm not sure. They cannot fly up a sheer surface though, obviously, and will instead pass through. Survivors can now complete the repel action while vaulting a pallet or window. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Increase the repel action duration to 11 seconds. As opposed to, what is it now? It's not going to give me numbers, but the fact that they're increasing the time it takes to repel the birds is a buff. Reduce the light burn time to half a second, because you can light burn the freaking crows as well. Crows are still able to be light burned by other sources, including flashbangs or firecrackers. The amount of counterplay you are baking into this killer right now. Survivors with a flashlight can use it on themselves while they are swarmed to repel the crows at 200% speed. So is that like saying that there's gonna be a meter that fills up really quick? Because it says you can use the flashlight on yourself while you're sworn to repel the crows. At 200% speed, does that mean 200% the normal speed of waving them off? Because if so, that's something, but it's just more counterplay for them. The artist should only be made stronger from this point. She is so close to being like viable, but she's just not. You can tell the killers I'm more passionate about than others. Or I've just gotten to this mental state. Survivors with a flashlight can shine it on other survivors for 1 second or repel their swarm for them. Just a second, eh? I mean, I'm surprised that doesn't happen now. I mean, it might happen now, but more counterplay. Both of these interactions also work with flashbangs and firecrackers. Using a flashbang or firecracker on yourself to get rid of the crows, I can see. But I would still prefer if that's only possible if you like preemptively dropped those. Because like, oh, I'm about to be hit with birds, drop, they're swarming you, ba 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 ba, firecrackers, gone. Otherwise it's just a freaking OP thing that survivors can do. This guy has a crap ton of changes to the Onryo. Hitting a survivor after manifesting or projecting grants 1 stack of condemnation. Survivors cannot receive their 7th stack in this way. Fair. Increased range of projection condemnation to 20 meters. After gaining a stack of condemnation, a survivor cannot gain another stack for 7 seconds. If this went live and survivors were complaining like, they just have to wait out the 7 seconds and then blah blah blah. Killer instinct granted by full condemnation is now permanent. Meaning what? I think it's saying that once you're fully condemned, it's going to show your killer instinct until you get uncondemned. So that's interesting. And it actually makes it a freaking threat. Increased post-projection speed boost to 7.8 meters a second. That's good. Increased post-projection speed boost duration to 2 seconds. Giving her like a better wraith lunge at this point. TVs turned off by survivors have an 80-second cooldown. Bruh. TVs turned off by projection have a 50-second cooldown. You're giving the survivors to turn off the killer's freaking ability for 1 minute and 20 seconds. I don't get it. If all TVs are turned off, then 4 TVs at random are automatically powered back on. So that's like a thing with Plague where they cleanse out all their fountains, she gets her power back somehow. Except this time it's from the killer's perspective. Kind of. Because the killer using their TVs is way more likely than survivors just running around turning them all off. Because survivors is effortless, and as often as they're able to turn off the TVs, they normally don't turn all of them off, which leaves some holes in their defense, I guess. Reduced transportation time to 2.5 seconds. Teleportation time, rather. I can kind of get where he's coming from, because you can demanifest, teleport to a TV, demanifest, teleport to another TV, lickety split, like that all the time. I don't budge on a lot of things. Onryo definitely doesn't need a freaking nerf in that, but I'll say that change is fair. Increase time to insert tape to 4 seconds, so that the survivors can't just bait the killer to come at them with max freaking condemned. Put the tape in after getting hit the first time, and then complete the freaking tape put in before the killer's even able to recover and hit them again. Inserting a tape no longer removes all progress towards the next condemnation stack. It's buff to her. Cap and sign or cape and sign. Which one is that? That must have been a typo for him. Cabin sign now reduces the time it takes for a TV to turn on after projection by 8 seconds. Oh god. So it reduces the time it takes a TV to turn back on after projection by 8 seconds instead of 12 seconds. So it's a nerf to that add-on. The Wellstone now reduces the time, same thing, after having been turned off by a survivor by 12 seconds. So that's a buff to that one. Sea-soaked cloth now instead applies the electrified status effect, instead of just giving survivors freaking blindness while in the TV's range. Ring drawing now applies the additional condemnation on anyone who begins healing them, even if they don't finish. Oh wow, so I can just tap the freaking survivor, but, and my condemnation just goes up like that. I don't agree with that. If the same survivor is interrupted and tries healing again within 45 seconds, they will not get another stack of condemnation. Okay, so that's a buff overall. So it's not gonna do the freaking straw man scenario that I just put out there. It's just saying you're not gonna get away with healing someone partway, then having someone else take the condemned for you, which I suspect might have been happening a lot sometimes in solo matches where one of the two people healing a single person who was condemned wouldn't be man enough to finish the heal, and they'd want the other person, and then the person wouldn't be fully healed and they just get down by the Onryo again. It's a very niche scenario, but it's one that I've never thought about and that he kind of solves with this. Or at least delays, I don't know. Mother's Comb now reveals the aura of a survivor who turns off a TV for 4 seconds. That's good. Bloody Fingernails now also increases the post-projection speed boost to 8.6 meters a second. It's quite a lot. That is quite a lot. Combine the effects of telephone and distorted photo into telephone. So the survivors are going to get hindered within 7 meters of a manifestation for 3 seconds. In addition to survivor witnessing a manifestation getting a scream. So the scream is going to let them know that they're hindered as well. And so now he's changing distorted photo. Make the survivors begin the trial with 3 stacks of condemnation. Tape editing deck now ensures that their highlighted TV will always be the farthest one from their location. Because I guess it didn't before, because the devs are screw-ups, kinda. Remote control now reveals the auras of survivors who are carrying a VHS tape for 7 seconds after a projection. That's interesting. But, you as survivors should not be carrying around a tape a lot like my Survive with Friends do. Iridescent videotape now increases total TV spawns on the map by 4. Instead of being this pink add-on that makes or breaks this freaking killer, whether she brings it or not. And increasing the TV spawns on the map, would that put like multiple of them around a single generator, or you know, something like that? But that's an actual good pink add-on. The Dredgy's only got 2 measly changes. Change the visual effects of Nightfall to cause less eye strain. I don't know how you plan to do that. Nightfall now causes the blindness status effect on top of everything else. So that's a buff if you ask me, which he kind of needed. Now the mastermind, Wesker himself, removes the hindered from reaching critical infection. Why does he need that removed? Once an infected survivor is unhooked, their infection is removed, and up to 50% is transferred to the unhooker. That's a good idea. Decreased the power charge time to 1.25 seconds. They decreased it, so he made it faster. Okay. The mastermind chain-bound window now begins after he vaults a pallet or window if there is another token of virulent bound left, allowing him to reorient himself and perform a chain bound. So you're gonna be, or you would be able to perform a chain bound after you vaulted a pallet or window. That's a really good idea. That should totally be a thing in the game right now. Increased survivor collision detection to 35 centimeters. That's a good idea. Better detection. Because right now you just freaking glide past them sometimes when you really should have grabbed them. Leather gloves, which I don't even know he had an add-on. Here it is. Now decreases recharge time by 7% instead of 10%, so you're nerfing him. Bullhorn now grants the electrified status effect. That's kind of cool. Instead of useless. Well, it's not useless because I thought this was the blindness one. It's oblivious. So I guess he didn't like the oblivious effect on this. Maiden medallion now inflicts the oblivious and exposed status for 30 seconds. So he's combining the bullhorn with this, or until they use a first aid spray. So, assuming the survivor gets off hook and gets fully healed in less than 60 seconds, they're going to be exposed. And it's not even for 60 seconds anymore, it's for 30 seconds. In what scenario, I mean, I'm glad he added the exposed status effect to it, but in what scenario is... Hang on. I'm assuming this is applying to when they're fully infected, not just when they're infected, because that changes everything. So when they become fully infected, they'll get oblivious and they'll get the exposed status for 30 seconds. Or until they use a first aid spray. Got it. Dark sunglasses now grants undetectable for 20 seconds upon infecting a survivor. That seems better to me. And iridescent Ouroboros vial now reduces the first aid spray use by 1, but spawns 50% more supply crates on than that. So doesn't that just negate the buff that you freaking gave it? I mean, seriously. And now he moves on to the survivors, but I've been talking about these changes for a long time, and I really just wanted to cover the killer stuff, so I will continue to read the rest of this on another day. For now, this is Daniel Master 87 signing out.